Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial by Zebra Code. In this tutorial, we are going to look at classes and objects in C++. This is an introductory tutorial to classes and objects. In today's world of software engineering and in modern programming languages, you will very much come across the concept of OOP, that is, Object-Oriented Programming. In computer programming or in the field of computer application development, it is very common to build object-oriented systems. But hang on, what is an object-oriented system? Well, an object-oriented system is a collection of objects that collectively achieve the goals of the overall system. An object-oriented system is a description of those objects, their structure and behavior. The structure of the object is described by its member fields. The behavior of the object is described by its member functions. The member fields and member functions are not described for individual objects. That is very important to note. Rather, those descriptions are applied in forms of classes for each group of similar objects. In its own definition, a class is a description of what structure and behavior its instances exhibit. In other words, a class is a blueprint for an object. Some people would say it is the prototype or it is the template. We build a class as a template and create objects from that template. Now we are going to look at an example of a class and objects. This is a student class. The student class has some attributes, and we are going to create some objects out of the student class. Some of the attributes a student would normally have include names, student ID, gender, the course number or course the student is doing, the nationality, status, and so on. At the top of it here, we can see that this is just a prototype of it. However, once the class is created or the prototype is created with state or attributes, then we can create objects from that template, that class template. So our template here now is for the student class, and these are objects created or derived from that particular class. For example, Julian Santos is a student. Vic Richard is also a student. We don't have to create separate classes for each and every student. Rather, we can create a single class in which we can create objects from. So, in this diagram, we can see we've got a prototype for the student class, and we have some objects that we have created from the student class. In addition to the attributes that a class can have, it's also important to understand that a class can also have some behaviors. For the student class, we have seen the attributes, but we also need to understand that a student class can also have some behaviors or operations. For example, a student can enroll on a course, attend lecture, take exam, and graduate. For the sake of simplicity and the fact that we are only talking about creating a class and deriving some objects from it at this stage, we won't be talking much about the class behavior. So we are going to program a class and create some objects from it in C++. Alright, now that we have looked at classes and objects in a theoretical aspect, let's look at it in the practical aspect. We are going to actually model a class, create a class with these attributes as our prototype, and create objects from it. we will create these 5 separate objects from this class. To do that, let's go to our code editor. We are going to be using Qt Creator as our code editor for the C++ application that we are going to build to create a class and some objects. This is my Qt editor, and now I am going to create a new project. Click on New, File or Project, and we are going to use the non-Qt project. Click on the non-Qt project, and here click on Plain C++ application. Now click on Choose. Let's call our project Student Records. Choose on where you are going to save it on your computer. In my case, I already have a folder called Qt related work, so I'm going to save it there. But if you are going to save it somewhere else on your computer, you can browse to it from here. Now click Next. Leave everything as it is here. Qt6 uses CMake, so by default CMake will come up here, and we are going to leave it as it is. Now click Next. Because I am on Windows 10, I am going to use desktop Qt 6.0.0 main GW 64-bit. I will take this one as my kit selection. This is the kit selection area, so what I have selected now is desktop Qt 6.00 main GW 64-bit. Do the same thing. Select desktop Qt 6.00 main GW 64-bit and click Next. For the project management area, leave it as it is. We are not going to be using something like Git here, so we just leave it to be none. And now click on Finish. It should now take you to a default page like this, which is the usual C++ Hello World program that the Qt Creator program generates. But in my case, I'm going to select everything and delete it. The reason for that is I want us to build everything from scratch. So let's include our Iostream header file using namespace. We use the standard namespace, that's std. Integer, we will set it as main. Integer or int going to be main, and return 0. So this is our C++ template for the main application, the main method. So to test that it's working, just use a cout. Let's test it as a student record application. Now save it and let's run it, or you can build it. To build it, go to rebuild our project. It is currently building and it was successfully built, which means our main method is working well. Just to test it, click on this and it shows student record application, which means we are ready to go. Everything is working well. Now let's define our class. If you look at it here, once again, you will see that we have student, first name, last name, student ID, gender, course, nationality, status, student, study mode, GPA as our attributes for the class. So we are going to do those, and to do that, we go back to our file. Let's first of all define our class. Class student. This is our usual class declaration approach or method of doing it. Now we need to say what exactly it is. Public. So we are going to add some attributes to it in here. Those attributes are going to be what we specified in our class prototype screen before. Now we have the first name there, which is going to be a string first name. The next one will be a string last name. And what was the other one? We can always look at our file. Student ID. Student ID, we can do that as an int. Student ID. And the next one there is gender. Gender, we use a char for that. And the next option there was course. That would be a string course. The next one is for the nationality, and that is also going to be a string nationality. And the next one is status. That is also going to be a string, or we can make that one to be a boolean. That is the student enrolled, yes or no. Bool status. And what was the next one again? Study mode. That will be a string. While the last one is GPA. We can make that one to be a double. All right, that is it. Now we have set all the attributes for the student class. Actually, we can set the constructor right above it, default constructor. Before then, let's add a comment here. The attributes, setting the attributes. Here we can add the constructor there to it, student, and we're going to make it a default constructor. At the same time, we can also add the destructor to it, which is normal in C++. Student, so this is the tilde, and we add it was student, which is we have the default constructor here, and we've just added a destructor to it. We'll come to that later in the video. I don't want to complicate issues for now, so going into that, we kind of make it a bit difficult for beginners to understand. All right, now we have added the attributes. The next thing is to add the getters and setters to it. And we will start with the first one, which is for the first name. That will be void get first name. It is a string. Say string first name. This first name equals first name. That was a typo there. Should be first name, not our spelling mistake there. All right, that fixes it. Now that problem is gone. Okay, then string set first name return first name. That's fine here. So that's done for the first name. We need to do the same thing for others. The next one will be for the last name. Void get last name string this last name equals last name, and here we say return that string set last name return last name. And what was the next one there? I say student ID, which is an integer. Void student ID equals student ID. That's fine. Student ID return student ID. Save it. Gender is a char character. Void we set gender to char because we just want to use one letter, M for male. We could have used a string as well if we wanted to write everything in full, but this was just to kind of add a different data type to it. Gender equals gender, set gender, return gender. That's fine. What was the next one again? The next one was course of study. That one is a string. Void get course. It's a string. This equals course. It's a string. Set course. Return. Return course. That's fine. The next one on the list, nationality, I guess. Yes, that's a string as well. Nationality. It's a string. We can just use n here like an alias. It doesn't have to be always in full. That is allowed. Nationality, this. Nationality equals n. This is string. Set nationality. Return. Nationality. That's fine. And I think we have a couple more, one or two more. Boolean, which is for status. Void. Get status. It's a Boolean. Status equals status. Set status. Return status. Void. Let's study mode. This. Sometimes the highlighter helps there. Great, that fixes the problem. String. Set. Study mode. Return study mode. And the last one was for the GPA. For the GPA, we could set that one to double. Void get GPA double GPA, that's what it was set to. Equals GPA. Double set GPA return GPA. Yes, that's basically it. So our class is now fully defined. So what did we actually do? Let me quickly run through it from top here. Include Iostream. We just included the standard Iostream library or C++ library using namespace standard class student. Now the class, we set all the attributes here to public. We could have set some to private. I don't want to go into that at this stage, but here we have a default constructor for it, and this is a destructor. I will also come to that later on the course or in the tutorial. The attributes, we are setting the attributes here based on what we have here on the file, first name, last name, and so on. So now we have those attributes added to it. We are setting the getters and setters for each attribute here, so that we will be able to use them to set the required data for each field. So everything looks fine here. It's basically the same thing repeated for each and every one of them in terms of setting the attributes. One of the reasons of doing this is just to make sure that when we create an object from this class, we will be able to use the same approach for each object that we create. Now that we are done with the process of setting the attributes and setting the getters and the setters, okay, now we are going to create some objects from the student class. Let's add a comment here. Creating objects from the student class. That's fine. Okay. The first object here will be for the student Julia Santos, which is the first one there. So we're going to say here, we are going to say here now student, and I'm going to add a pointer. Let's add a pointer to it there. JS for Julia Santos equals new student. That is how you create an object. You instantiate an object from a class. So now we ignore these warning messages. We are going to get rid of them in a minute. Now JS set first name. We're going to set the first name here, and we'll say Julia. And JS, let's set the second name, the last name, set last name, Santos. Keep on adding other attributes and to call them JS. The next one on the list was student ID, JS dot set student ID. ID was an integer, so we can just say here 44310 for the ID. JS, the next one was for gender, so JS set gender. Because that was a child, we are going to add just one character to it, female, which of course she is. F for female. JS now is going to be the next one. The next one now will be for the course, which is JS set course. Here we can set her course to banking and finance. That's what she's studying, or she studied. And the next option there is going to be the nationality, JS set nationality. She's Spanish. And the next thing then is going to be the set status. Set status here, we are going to say whether she is enrolled or not, and we set that to Boolean in the attribute part of it. So JS set status. If we add a true here, true will return the value 1 when we run it. That's 1 for true. If we set it to false, it will return 0, which means she is not enrolled. In this case, she is enrolled, so let's leave it as a true, which means by the time we run our application, we will get the value 1 as a result of this true that we have set it to. Okay, the next thing there on the attribute list is the study mode. Is she a full-time student or a part-time student? Let's set it to full-time for now. Set study mode to full-time. And the last option on the attribute list is the GPA. So let's set her GPA. We can leave that at 3.8 because that one is a double. 3.8 as our GPA. Okay, now we have set all the data we need to enter for that particular student. The next thing is to retrieve them, to print them out. Let's leave a comment here. Enter the data. The data, not date. Print out the data on the screen. And here I'm going to first of all add a line with some asterisks, and that will be a cout. I will just put some here because we are going to put some line breaks in. Okay, end line there. Expected cout or semicolon is missing. That's right. I should remove that. Okay, great. Now the next thing, I'm going to show you that line. You will see it in a minute when we display the data. Now we are going to print the first one, cout. I'm going to put a tab there to prevent it from just getting aligned to the start of the screen. So we can add our T there, backspace T, that's fine. And we'll call this one here full name. And will now be js.get. We are going to use that get internal, yes, that get full name. That will be js.get first name. And that will be fine there. Put some spaces there. Then one more will be js.get last name, because we are going to print both on the same line. And here we can end end the line there. Okay, that's fine for now, and we are going to do the same thing now for the second one. Then we remove this one here. Great, that solves the problem we're facing there. All right, now I'm going to add another cout, which is going to be for the other attribute that we're trying to retrieve, which will now be the student ID. Student ID. GS dot get student ID end line. Then the next option there will be for us to get the student gender. Cout put a tab there again. We can just say gender straight away. Yeah. That's saying student gender. We all know already we are trying to retrieve the gender of the student. Okay. GS dot get student that's dot get gender. That's fine. And the next thing on the list here, we are going to get this course name. I cout student, or we can just say course name, the course she's studying. That will be GS get course and the next thing there is the nationality. Cout nationality GS dot get nationality. The next there is the study mode. Status, we need to confirm whether she's enrolled or not. Cout status. I need to put those ones close to each other. Okay, that looks better. Status GS dot get status. And the next one there is study mode. Cout put that space there. Mode of study, study mode or mode of study is still okay. GS dot study mode dot get study mode. And the last one here is for the GPA. Cout GPA js.get GPA. Okay, so that's all it is to that. We should fix that error message. Okay, now it's all okay. Okay, here again we still need to fix that one. It did not complete it automatically then. So that's all. It looks all good here. Now I'm going to quickly copy this one and paste it right at the bottom so that we see the same line there as well. Okay, now let's test our application. First, let's rebuild it. Rebuild our application. It's building. Okay, has successfully built it. No error message. Now let's run it by clicking here. Great, that's the result. So for the first student here, Julia Santos, we have successfully created an object from the class. The first object we created is Julia Santos. Student ID, gender, female, course name, banking and finance, nationality Spanish, status 1, study mode full-time, and GPA 3.8, which is great. For other ones, we can repeat the same process by typing it up. For the sake of time, we can just easily copy and paste here. To do that, just copy from here to here and paste it right below that. I'm going to put the file at the description of this video post. So now we have successfully copied it, and it's also pasted at the bottom. We need to make some changes because this first one was for Julia Santos, while this one is going to be for another student. So how do we do that? We go back to our student class diagram. So the next one is Fumi Emeka. Okay, so we will call that one FM or FE, Fumi FE, that's Fumi Emeka. So we are going to replace everything here. Fumi, this one is Emeka. Then student number, we can change it. We assume that the first 3 digits are the same, but the last 3 digits are the one that we change. Say 199, that's her. She is also female. Then her course of study this time around, let's change that one to software engineering. She's studying software engineering. Nationality Nigerian, that is a Nigerian name. Status, she's enrolled, that's true. Study mode full-time. Her GPA, let's change that one to 3.9. That's very high. Oh, 3.9 for her GPA, but we do need to change this one as well to FE. This should be FE, Fumi Emeka. Or we can just FE, FE, FE. Same for everything here. That is something you get to do when you are doing copy and paste. And here too, wherever we mention the JS, now should read FE. That wasn't the place I wanted to do it. Okay, now should be FE. All right, that should be it. Everything now should look good. Let's again build it and then run it. Build our project. Yes, it was successfully built. Now let's run it by clicking here. Great. Now we also have full name, Fumi Emeka, student ID, and so on. So we have successfully created 2 objects so far. These lines shouldn't be 2. Let's remove one of them. I think we had it pasted in 2 separate places where one should be enough. As for the top one, okay, we can remove this one. I'll be fine. Yes. Now for the 3rd student, Yinli, we have to do the same thing for her. Assuming we still have everything there. Yes. So Yinli, we need to change that one to YL. Yili. Okay, let's change the name to Yin, and this one should be Li. This same thing we need to change the last 3. We can change this one to 009. That's her student number. As a female student, we just use F to denote that. What is she studying this time? We can put that one as computer science. Computer science. And nationality, Chinese. Status, she's enrolled, so we leave that one as true. Full-time, she's a full-time student. We can put this one as 3.4. So we need to change everything here as well. YL for Yili. Okay, and from the other side of it, this part of it also needs to change from JS to YL, Yili. All right, so that has been changed successfully. Let's build it again and test it one more time. Rebuild our projects. Yes, great. It was built successfully. Now let's run it. Great. Now we have 3 objects so far, 3 students. We have Julian Santos, Fumi Emeka, Yele. We have the same problem here again. We need to delete one of the lines. So we can quickly do that. This one can be deleted. 2 more students to add, then it's all done. Okay, the other student is Vicky Richard. VR Vicky. Let's change the name here. Vicky Richard, we change the last one here again. 882. She's also a female student. She's studying business administration. Nationality, American. Status, she's enrolled, true. And she's a full-time student. GPA, can put this one as 3.5. Here we change this one to VR. VR. So we change it here again at the bottom quickly. That's all done. Let's save, build, and preview it. Yes, it was built successfully. Everything is fine. Now let's run it. Great. Now we have another object, another student, Vicky Richard. So we have 4 objects so far: Julia Santos, Fumi Emeka, Yinli, and Vicky Richard. We also need to remove this line. We keep adding it every now and then. Last student, we need to quickly add to it. And who was that student? That was Eric Jones. We need to change it the same way we did for others. Eric Jones, EJ. Eric Jones ID. This time we need to change this one. He is a male student. And what is he studying? He's studying international law. Nationality, British. Student status, true. He's enrolled. He's studying full-time. We could have set this one to part-time, at least to have a different study mode. His GPA is 3.2. So now we change everything here. EJ, think that's pretty much it. So everything has been changed now. Let's save it and preview it one more time. Build it. It was built successfully. No error message. We can delete this one. Then we don't have it twice. Okay, build it one more time. Yes, it was successfully built. No error message. Now run it. Yes, so Eric Jones has also been added. Now we have 5 students that we have created from the class student. So to confirm something here, study status was set to true. Now let's set it to false. Now if we set it to false, the result will be 0. Will be for Eric Jones. Let's check it. Yes, it shows here 0, which is false. That is, Eric Jones is not enrolled. He is a student, but he's not enrolled this academic semester. Also, just to show that true will return 1, while false will return 0. 1 means enrolled, while 0 means not enrolled. The gap here, this is the T tab we used. That is from here. That was why we added this backspace and T to it to add a tab there. Otherwise, it will be very close to the screen. For example, if I delete this now, let's see it for Eric Jones. Yes, you can see the status is just very close to the edge here. So to remove that, that was why we use the tab there. Put it back. So okay. We have successfully created a class for student with some attributes to it, and also created some setters and getters for each of the attributes, and we have successfully added data for each student by creating 5 objects from the student class. So that is how you create a class in C++ and create some objects from it. So if you look at it carefully now, you will see that the class definition here was just actually the blueprint. That was the template we created. So the objects we have here are just copies of the blueprint, and we did not create separate classes for each of the objects. Rather, they are all copies of the same class. I hope you learned something from this video, and we will continue to build on that. Thank you very much for watching.